Good morning. We're glad you guys could join us today. We're going to get started shortly. We're just waiting for a few more people to get on, so hang tight. Thanks.
Well, good morning, everybody. I thought we'd get started here. So welcome to the Reports Made Easy with Jet Reports webinar. So I'm Paul James. I'm the BI practice leader here at Boyer & Associates. So before we get started, I want to let you know that we will be recording this for other people to view later. So if people have registered or need to pass this around to somebody in the office, definitely let us know. We'll get a copy of that to you. So everybody is muted, but if you do have questions, please use the questions box at the bottom of your window and we will get those answered as best we can. So get started, why don't we have a little discussion about the three-part webinar series we had. So a couple weeks ago, we actually did one about Power BI and what the differences were between dashboards and reporting. So now we're on to the next one here of Reports Made Easy with Jet Reports. And in July 10th, we're going to be doing one about BI360. So the agenda today is we're going to take a look at Jet Reports, kind of easy to create custom financial reports, go into some business analytics, take a look at dashboards, some mobile capabilities, and maybe a little discussion about data warehousing depending on our time. So here's myself, and Michael Hoffman from Jet Reports is actually going to be showing us Jet Reports and some of the functionality. So here at Boyer & Associates, that's kind of our motto of making businesses better. So that's kind of what we're doing, is trying to help you make your business better. And by doing that, we're holding webinars and kind of helping you understand BI and what it can do for you. So a little bit about Boyer. We were founded in 1994. We have about 325 clients, and I believe that's growing every day now. 17 staff, and we are a Microsoft Gold certified partner. So, and this is kind of our core values that we kind of work by here at Boyer & Associates, you know, trust, effort, attitude, and meaningful relationships, or TEAM for our acronym. So, and what we'd like to do is we like to help resolve problems for you, you know, getting through that data, all that information, kind of helping you understand your programs and your processes. And some of the products and services that we provide here at Boyer & Associates. We've got the ERP products and then services, as well as, you know, BI tools, customizations, and support. So let me turn it over to Michael, and we can do the Jet demo.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Paul, for that introduction. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Perfect. All right. So yeah, thanks again for that intro, and thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for being here. Again, as Paul said, I'm basically the channel manager or one of them over at Jet, and so today really is meant to give you both a high-level kind of introduction to Jet if you've never seen this before, but also really diving into how to build reports, how to build dashboards, how to kind of evaluate what product would really best fit your business. And so really we're all very closely aligned with Boyer and Associates in terms of what our goals are, is really to come alongside you, to partner with you, to eliminate those islands of data, and just to make it easier to give you data to make quality decisions around your company and around the future of your businesses. So the agenda today, we've kind of already talked about. It's really going to be both financial reporting. I'm going to show some sales and kind of ad hoc examples of reporting, and then also a discussion around what's the difference between reporting and business intelligence. And when we dive into dashboards, I'm actually going to show you 3 different ways that you can access your information in terms of analytics and advanced metrics with Jet, and also talk about the future here. And so Jet Reports as a company, we are a global company. We still operate like kind of a smaller company, and the reason for that is we're still family owned. And so the family, the whole crafts who started Jet, they're still here, which is great because it really allows us to focus as a company on those goals of delivering value to our clients and partnerships. We have 11,000 unique businesses all over the world that rely on us every single day. And we do cater really specifically to the needs of the Microsoft ERP user. So whether it's, Dynamics 365, which is kind of the newest version of ERP for Microsoft, or we're just talking about those traditional ERPs like Dynamics SL, Dynamics GP, and of course, Dynamics Nav. And so when we started in 2002, we were financial reporting in Excel out of Dynamics Nav. And so we've grown into much more than that. As you can see here, we have offices all over the globe. And so in terms of what clients do we serve, really it's a wide majority. So everyone needs reporting. And so you'll recognize some names on here, I'm sure: Citizen Watch, Talking Rain, Sunkist. Talking Rain is actually just behind Coke and Pepsi in terms of beverage distribution here in the US. Pretty large company, but we also work with smaller ones. And it's really more about scalability and being able to transition up as your business grows. And so just know, no matter where you start, Jet will grow with you all the way up into your aspirations, right? So if you're creating reports in some of the other products and you transition into implementing business intelligence with Jet, you're not going to be rebuilding your reports. You're not going to be starting from scratch. It all goes with you. So that's really kind of who we are. And in terms of what we'll be showing, again, is really just at first is reporting right within Excel. And so really, I'm going to start with a blank Excel sheet. Oh, it's interesting. So the Jet ribbon usually exists right there. That's interesting. Give me 1 second here. Sometimes I have too many Excel files open, so give me 1 second. But in general, basically, reporting is a snapshot of your data. So it could be anything from, sales that day to inventory that day. And when we move into BI, really what we're going to be talking about is looking at those kind of trends. So historical information, being able to spot those trends, those overarching themes within your company that will allow you to basically see everything at once and allow you to kind of shift and pivot your business and maybe budget or plan more effectively for seasonality. So let me go ahead. Okay. There we go. So that is the jet ribbon. And so really what it is, it's just a matter of pointing to what database we want to pull from. I'm connected to a sample database that's Dynamics GP, but as you can see, we can connect to a wide variety of different sources. And really, in short, we can connect to any data source. But once we've chosen where we want to pull information from, our companies will reside right here, as well as you'll have a tool set, which is really where you're designing reports from. And so for our purposes, I'm going to be showing the designer perspective first, just so you can get a feel for what it looks like to create a report on the fly. And I'll be using the very, very popular function called the GL function that pretty much all of our customers use because it's just so straightforward. Now, when I open up the GL, really what it's going to do is give me a set of questions. And so these questions could be, wrong screen. These questions can be answered however you'd like. But in short, the first question when it says where is simply just asking, where do I want my information returned? And so if I click this dropdown, you can see we can use a wide variety of different replicators. So it simplifies duplicating our efforts. Because we're in Excel, we can use some of these replicators very well. Now, I'm going to take advantage of this sheet replicator. And on each new sheet, I'm going to break out information by one of my account segment codes. In Nav, the most commonly used way to do this is like a global dimension or something along those lines. So very, very similar in terms of what you can do, or company for that matter. I'm going to use segment 1, and we'll just call that department. And so right below this function, I'm just going to create what I'd like to see by department. And so I'm going to grab the account number, the name, balance, budget, and the variance. And so same idea with the GL. In this case, I want my rows to, I want my information really to be returned in rows. So I'm going to select rows for where. What would I like to see is all of my accounts. And in any situation, when you're creating a report, you're always going to have access to your full list of accounts. If you're using Dynamics Nav, there's actually a function called Fast Financials that will consolidate this information for you. And so it's really up to you on what you include in the report. In this case, I want all of the accounts. So instead of picking, a specific set of accounts, I'm simply going to leverage Excel and say, please look up here, and whatever department or company you see, pull all of the accounts from that. Same idea with account name. I'd like the account name for which account. Well, I'm going to take advantage of being in Excel again and simply cell reference. For balance, I just go ahead and say, what would I like to see is the balance for which account? And you can kind of see the theme is we're just really taking advantage of the flexibility of Excel. I'm going to hard code in a date range here, which is definitely not the only way to do that, but it's just basically on the fly. And then balance, I'm just going to simply drag this function over because we really are using the same exact function, except I'm going to move from balance to budget. And then variance, really pretty straightforward, right? We're just subtracting a couple of numbers, but I did want to highlight that everything about Excel that you get to keep and couple all of that existing knowledge. Nothing about Excel changes for you with Jet. And then I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and hide this row from our viewers. and auto fit these columns as well. So basically what I've done is I've said, I want a new tab for each department. I want a variance report for each department, and I don't want my viewers to see this row. I just want them to see the information being presented. And so at this point, once I'm done, I come back to the Jet ribbon and just simply click run. This will grab information from the database itself. I don't know what it's doing here. This will grab the information from the live database and then pull back the information in the format that I've requested. So we should see, in this case, 100, 200, 300, and so on and so forth. Which we do. So we have our 100s, 200s, and so on. And so again, this is just basically one example of how to slice your information, but it's a pretty concise report. But as you can see, it's really kind of straightforward. And then if I want to drill back into transactional information, I just hover over a number, go ahead and click the arrow, and it's going to pull up the information and allow me to get back into the journal entry level. Or if you're using Dynamics Nav, very similar, it's just going to open up Nav so you can get back to those transactions as well. So in this case, we see the journal entries. And then you can organize this however you'd like. So if I move originating master up to the top, we can see, okay, what customers have actually given me cash, and then even export this back to Excel if you would want. So pretty flexible, pretty straightforward. Now, when we start talking about kind of value day one, we do provide about 50 pre-built reports and dashboards with Jet. And so you can see all of those at the Jet Reports website. But just to kind of give you a feel for what some of those might look like, this is a salesperson scorecard. Really what we've done is kind of an ad hoc analysis where we have some graphs from Excel tied to this. It allows us now, when I refresh or run this report, to change what salespeople we're looking at. And so this is the perspective that a viewer gets. So if I've created a report and I've shared this with someone and we've deemed them as kind of someone who should be able to interact with this report, now when they click run, instead of just seeing a static report, they actually do have the option to change what salespeople they're looking at or what the date range might be. And those options are built in by the designer of that report. And so just know, in terms of the amount of reports that you'll get, basically they span all different types of modules or different needs that you may have. As you can see, we have some inventory, obviously a lot of financials, sales. So there's a lot of reports that out of the box day one, you're going to be able to use and start impacting the way that you do business. And so the next example I wanted to show is really, again, one of the most common ways our customers are building reports. And it's basically a way to access all of your Dynamics data in one window and then really truly have drag and drop reporting. And so what we see is really most people start with this browser tool if they're doing ad hoc analysis. And the reason, again, as you might guess, is it's just really straightforward. So if I open up this browser window, what we're going to be looking at is all of the tables, fields, or views that are within my database. Okay, and so again, this is where we choose where we're pulling data from. But as you scroll through, you'll notice a couple of things. One is friendly names for any tables that have kind of cryptic table numbers. So if you haven't memorized those, we have kind of the keys to the kingdom, if you will, through being very close partners with Microsoft and actually delivering products at their request. And so because of that, we have a lot of access kind of around the back end to give these friendly names, as well as custom views. And so views, really what they are meant to simplify reporting. And so over time, we found that the average customer on a Dynamics platform, they're going to use anywhere from 10 to 15 tables and maybe 100 or so fields for reporting. And so we've taken that information, consolidated that information, and basically made it easier to access that data. And so when I click on this table here, this Jet Customer Master, there's two other things that I want to point out for anyone on the line who's kind of responsible for ad hoc analysis. Is one, we've added this kind of star. It's not breakthrough technology, but it's just a favorites button. And so you can store your most commonly used tables here as well. But you can also drill into data before you pull it into a report. So instead of guessing necessarily what might be within a certain field, you can actually open this information up and see, oh, that's actually what's in that field. Maybe I want to pull something else in. So it can be very helpful and very save a lot of time if that's one of your responsibilities. So I'm just going to pull in some information here. We'll do some sales. So I'll just drop this, and you can see it's truly drag and drop. The entire function in terms of what's required for Jet was written for me. So now when I run this report, it literally gives me the exact information I asked for. So every customer, their name, what region they're located in, and the amount of revenue that they're generating. So if I go back into design mode, there's a couple of things that I want to show you. One is, again, kind of integrating Excel into this report, which is great because we're not locked into, any sort of pivot table. So now I can actually cell reference and create custom calculations. So we'll say, I don't know, maybe we're projecting some sort of growth here, like around 8%. So we'll go ahead and do that. And the example that I returned actually really only had about 100 or so lines of information. So I know people on the call, you're going to have examples that are much larger than that. And so I'm going to show you a real quick way you can actually slice that information down before you run or pull back the report. And so I'm just going to click on that little grayed out function. It intuitively asks me, okay, what would you like to filter on? So in this case, when I use the dropdown, I can filter on any of the fields within this table. But because I'm looking at the report, I'm in the same area that I created this report, I have the ability to slice on information that's in here pretty easily. So in this case, maybe I'm going to filter on region first. And again, it shows me what information is contained within that field. There's some operators down here that you may already be familiar with, like the range operator, where if we created a range of accounts or something like that, everything may be greater than or even except certain fields. So it's totally up to you. I'm just going to pick a few of these. I'm going to grab the 3 states that start with an I. Whoops. And then what do we have? We have sales. So let me grab sales. And again, you could do something like everything greater than a certain transaction from the database if you wanted to. I'm just going to say in general, it looks like everything greater than 20,000 would be good. We'll click OK. And so you see the first record of information updated for me. And now if I wanted to, it'd be pretty easy to create like a chart off of this. And so I'm going to actually take the grid lines off here. Go ahead and run this. We'll have the same exact report, except it's going to be a little bit smaller. And we're actually going to have a graph tied to it. So you have this nice visual. And so I'd probably add like a company logo up here and maybe kind of what information I'm actually filtering on over on the right. So pretty straightforward in terms of kind of how to build a report like that. But again, it's definitely one of the most popular ways for people to get reports out of Jet, just because, again, it's really just drag and drop. So two things I want to touch on before we kind of leave the reporting realm, if you will. One is distribution, right? And so if we think in terms of how does Jet license their solutions, basically there's only two things: is how many data sources are we connecting to? And again, we can connect to pretty much any database, but a lot of our value adds and things that make our product great are built for Dynamics products. And then the other is how many designers or how many creators of reports will I need? All of our products come with unlimited viewers. So what that means for you is, having already made an investment into a Dynamics platform, you now have the advantage of working with a reporting tool built for Dynamics that won't charge you per user. So in terms of distributing this report, a viewer has the ability to run, so they can refresh data, they can drill down, they can interact with any of those filters like date range or company that you may actually have built into the report. So the viewer has a lot of power. How you get this information to the viewer is totally up to you. There's two kind of common ways that people distribute these reports. And again, it's just an Excel file, so you can share it any way you can share an Excel file. But we have this automated scheduler right here within Excel. And really what it does is it allows you to distribute this report on a cadence. So we could say, you can call this task whatever you want, but maybe once a week, I need this report emailed to the specific managers of this region, for example. So you could say send via email, and then you can also choose the output. So if you wanted to give them an interactive Jet workbook, you could, but you can go as simple as a PDF as well. So it's totally up to you, very flexible in terms of how you can deliver that information, even if you're just right here in Excel. The other way of distributing a report, which is fastly growing in popularity, is our web-based option, where really a designer gets to upload this information into the web and provide mobile access to anyone in their business to reports and dashboards in the web. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to the web portal and log in. And so really there's two reasons that the Jet web portal came to be. One is we heard client feedback, which is really what drives our business, is I love Jet, I love the way it works, but one of the challenges that I have is actually managing where I'm storing all of these reports. Like, I'd like one central repository for that. And then the other, I think, is pretty obvious in this day and age, is a lot of people are on the go. And so they maybe don't have access to a laptop, or maybe they're just wanting to view information on their phones or on their tablets. The Jet web portal really solves both of those pieces of feedback that we heard. And so when I logged into this web portal, really what we're seeing is a personalized view for the person who logged into the web. So instead of going through file folders or trying to find which version of the report is the most accurate, now I'm just presented with the options that I can use. And so in this case, if I open up really any of these reports, like this customer balance and credit limits, we'll see the option to run this report, to open this report, to share it, to schedule it. I mean, lots of different ways to view or share this information. But if I just simply click run, one thing I want you to see is you still get all the same options you would have had within Excel. So you could change the sales territory right here if you wanted to. I'm just going to leave it there so there's enough data for us to see. And then this will go back, it'll query the information from the database, and then it returns it to me here in the web. So now I can open this in the free version of Excel online, or I can download this report and view it on a local machine. So when I click open, it gives me both options. I'll show you Excel online because we've seen the local version so far. And there you have it. So right here in Excel, so you could print from here, you can edit the workbook from here. In this case, I have some slicers built in, so you could slice and dice the data if you wanted to. But again, it's really meant to give that user access to data without having Jet and without having Excel installed as well. And again, unlimited viewers with the web portal. The web portal does come with all of our solutions, all of our paid solutions. And so that's really what it does, gives you access to data. If I am the owner of this report, I can actually go into the details tab and share this with groups or specific users. It's totally up to you. But it's just really as easy as clicking boxes. And then when that viewer enters the web portal, they're now presented with that report for them to run and utilize. Another really great feature to the web portal, which is very beneficial come really audit time, is first off seeing the run history. So you can actually go back and see those versions of reports that have been ran in the past, but you also have full-on version control. So if I'm collaborating internally or I make changes to a report and maybe re-upload, just know there's a database with Jet that's saving each version of this report. So now instead of you having to manually manage that process, the web portal is actually simplifying it for you. So, and then obviously the scheduler, you guys can see that tab there. It's exactly really the same way that it works within Excel. It's just a matter of preference. Some people prefer to automate these reports via the web. Some prefer to do it basically right within Excel. So, and yeah, it really, in a nutshell, that is reporting with Jet. Basically, that's Jet Professional is the name that we've given this solution. And so it's live reporting. It's direct from a database. It's very flexible. As you can see, you can still drill back to transactional information, share reports very effectively, either via the web or via automated distribution, as well as drag and drop reporting for the kind of that ad hoc analysis. And so with that, I was going to move into really business intelligence with Jet and really how we start accessing all of our data. So if you have multiple data sources, or really how to create dashboards, right? Everybody wants to take a look at dashboards just because they're really just easy on the eyes. It gives a ton of information up front. And so I'm going to show really how we can accomplish this with Jet. So with that, I was going to see, it looks like there may have been some conversations, but I don't know. Paul, are there any questions that you think would be appropriate to answer now before we move into BI?
There was just one question about being able to drill down on variances. So I responded to that one that generally no, because it's a calculation. But now that we're getting to the business intelligence side, you can have some pre-calculated variances within that data warehouse that you could drill into, though.
Yes.
So then that might be something that you could throw into a dashboard to have the variance showing, and you can drill into that information too.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a very good point. So yeah, in terms of BI, that's really one of the things that it does very, very well, is it will store key performance indicators in the background. So instead of it being necessarily a manual calculation within Excel, we can bake that indicator or that KPI within the business intelligence set. So whether it's in the data warehouse, we also provide a set of cubes, which I'll talk about. So whether it's stored in the data warehouse or the cube, it allows us now to immediately get back to transactional information. And so in terms of what is BI, there's a lot of different thoughts or different kind of opinions out there. Really, in short, there's two components to business intelligence. There's the data structure. So if we're talking about even that specific question, a key performance indicator, how is that built into the report or into the dashboard? That's the data, right? Where is the information coming from? Is it secure? Is it really exactly what I'm looking for? So that's the data, and that's really where we shine. We create the foundation for BI, which is really the data structure itself, because the traditional burden of reporting really is understanding the underlying data structure. So do I know how this information links together? Am I technical enough to really kind of understand how to put all of the data together on my own? And in short, a lot of folks really just want it easier, faster, simpler, and they want all their data in one place. And that's what we do best. The other component of business intelligence, which is still important, is how does that information appear, right? So if I'm creating a graph or a dashboard or maybe a really advanced report, how does that look to the end viewer, right? Is it intuitive? Does it make sense? Is it giving them relevant information? So now can they go back and actually make an impact on costs? Can they make an impact on revenue? Can they change really the direction of a business? And so for us, really, we are going to provide that foundation. How you visualize this data is going to be 100% up to you. So whether you choose to use Excel, which I'll show you, you can also use our dashboard builder in the web. I'm also going to show you a little bit of Power BI, because we at Jet, we love Power BI. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this and open up a new workbook here. And so if I was tasked with building a complex sales report that was linking back to inventory, where let's say I wanted to see like sales by item, by region, by year, and then I also want to see what locations are responsible for that revenue, and then I want to see the cost and profit percent associated with those items as well. And I actually want to be able to maybe aggregate this information and compare it to last year, or even see it by salesperson. So I want to see, okay, who are kind of my top salespeople for specific items. I mean, that sounds like a mouthful, right? I mean, we're talking about almost everything related to sales, cost, and inventory. So with Jet Enterprise, this is really what I'm talking about. And this is what kind of blew me away at first when I first saw Jet, is, in my opinion, kind of seeing is believing in some cases. But our customers really use Jet Enterprise for a variety of different things, and this is one of them. Is I want to be able to just click boxes and access my information. So if I click on sales, cost, profit, and profit percent, we can see we have 80 million in profit, which is nice, but we have no idea where it's coming from. And so for those of you who have never worked with a cube before, what a cube is made up of is two pieces: measures, which are numerical values, which you see here, and then dimensions, which are really adding relevance and context to the data itself. And so if I scroll down here, I can grab my items, and let's go ahead and put this over time. And as you can see, I've clicked 6 boxes. We're not waiting for anything to refresh or reload. Everything's pre-calculated, and so it's actually reloading immediately and giving me all of my data here. I've clicked 6 boxes. This is a fully functional sales report right now. So I could roll this down into individual items, double click a number, immediately get back to the transactional information, right? So in terms of, how does this work? Really, it's kind of up to you. You can move these kind of how you're viewing the data around. It's very flexible, pretty intuitive. As you can see, you don't have to be a technical expert at all. And now I could create a dashboard off of this even if I wanted to. And then just to show you, one of the most common things that I see people do is aggregate or compare information. So if I aggregate this back to last year, or I want to compare it to percent differences, all of this is out of the box with Jet. So out of the box, day one, what you'll receive from Jet is a data warehouse and 7 pre-built cubes, okay? And the reason for that is we've averaged one implementation of Jet Enterprise per day since inception in 2011. And so we've gotten very good at kind of understanding these are, generally speaking, what most people are going to ask for. So instead of building this from scratch, we've pre-built these projects for Dynamics Nav and Dynamics GP and soon to be Dynamics SL, and it all installs within 2 hours. So instead of a typical BI implementation, which, you know, if you're doing this on your own can be laborious, but if you're working with a great partner like Boyer and Associates and you're leveraging a solution like Jet Enterprise, you're talking about tremendous value day one and the ability to customize this information however you see fit. And so really that's what you're getting out of the box from us. Now, to finish this up, I'm just going to show you if I wanted to like insert a graph or something like that. Pretty straightforward, right? We start creating some sort of dashboard off of this information. Now I can grab maybe some slicers. I want to see the locations and the salespeople, right? Were a couple of things that I had talked about. And so now I can say, okay, you know, who out of the folks that I'm managing is responsible for these revenues, right? And within Excel, really the idea is to create these kind of pivot charts and then consolidate them together on a dashboard feel like this, where we have these 4 different charts, right? And we've consolidated into a dashboard. And so now I can actually use these slicers to spot trends like we've been talking about. So if I'm just going to click a few of these folks. We'll grab like 4 of them. And we'll grab like a product line. And, oh, there you go. There is a glaring one. So we can see here, Annette is responsible for most of the revenue from this bags and totes line, right? And so again, this is sample data, it's not real life, but I just wanted to show you an example of really how straightforward it is to find those outliers, to find information within the business that's relevant, right? And these are kind of sales examples. Just know, obviously, you know, we have financial dashboards where we can start comparing actuals to budgets. So now instead of spending your time trying to figure out necessarily what the budget is, you're actually getting very, very relevant information on how to budget based on trends or things that are happening within the market. And so this again is an example of kind of one of those out of the box dashboards that come with Jet. So pretty nice. And they span everything. You saw some of them. We have HR, inventory, tax related reports, obviously cost related reports. So it kind of spans the entire spectrum. This is just kind of a taste. And so at this point, I also want to show you the other way to build a dashboard in Jet, which is kind of the mobile way of doing things. And so I'm going to pull that up right now. And really what this is the exact same thing we saw when we were in Excel. So I'm going to just do a new dashboard. We'll call it a sales dashboard. Is really there's that cube over here we see on the left. So you can see again, Very intuitive. You don't have to be technical by any means. And then you have start really over here on the upper left-hand corner where we choose how do we want the information to appear. So I just, again, just drag and drop information. So give me this specific pie chart, right? And I want to see, let's grab sales by the salesperson. So that's what we'll call it. We'll say sales by salesperson. And then you can customize this however you want. I actually prefer the legend at the bottom for this and the percentage values because I think it looks a little bit nicer. There you go. Let's grab a column chart here, and maybe we're wanting to see like individual items. And so that can actually be an example where you have a little bit of information overload. So if I come down to the items and I say, give me all of my items, and I want to see the profit associated with them, you can see there's a lot of data there. Very easy to clean this up. You just come over to the profit value. You just click on it and say, I would like to filter on just the top like 5 or something. So there you go, a little bit easier to read, right? So we'll say top 5 items by profit. And then the last one, we'll kind of tie it together here. We'll do like sales by item category or something. So we'll say sales item category. Let's actually open that up a little bit more. We'll say sales by item category. I'm also going to add a range slicer. This is very popular, really because it acts as a visual and a way to slice data at the same time. So I'm actually going to take both my profits and my sales, and I'm going to grab this over time. So now we can see, we'll just call this sales and profits over time. And then you could add whatever you want to this, right? You could add slicers, okay. And then I'm gonna change the theme to make the color pop. So you could put let's just put the quarter here, maybe salesperson here, and I think location would probably be good. Wherever that is, there it is. And then you could call this, like global sales. We'll go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. So yeah, I'll go to the theme. I actually really like this one. Really makes it pop. But I'm done. I mean, it literally took us 5 minutes roughly to do that. All that I would do is say save. This now saves into the web. And if I go back into the web portal, might make me log in again, maybe. Nope. We see our sales dashboard we just created right here. And you can interact with this however you want, right? So you can zoom into these visuals. And if you're on a tablet, basically you can just swipe with your finger, see any of this information, slice and dice it. So as you can see, again, no technical expertise required. Pretty straightforward. Once you have the cube and the data warehouse in place, this is really what it's doing for your company, is putting access to all of your information in one place in a simple, easy to understand, organized, and efficient manner. The last thing I'm going to close out with is Power BI. And really, I'm going to close out with Power BI because it's what a lot of people are either hearing about. Obviously, it's a part of this webinar. There's a reason we love Power BI. It's a very, very powerful solution. And so the difference between Jet and Power BI, it's really kind of two main components, okay? So the first component is you're still going to get financial reporting in Excel with Jet. So that's included no matter what. So most people prefer, instead of maybe seeing a balance sheet here, which looks pretty cool, and I think would attract a lot of attention and get a lot of eyes, there's nothing against that. But if I'm submitting a financial statement, really the preferred method is typically Excel. And so you're going to receive that, okay? The other component is the analysis services side. So really what that means is the data warehouse in cubes, right? So if I'm using Power BI, most times if I haven't had either my partner like Boyer create a dashboard for me, or I don't necessarily have the internal know-how or skills, you're usually starting with a blank slate. And the first question Power BI is asking you is, where's your data? Okay. And so really what you are looking at is, again, having to understand either the underlying data structure or something along those lines, which is totally fine for some organizations. There's nothing wrong with Power BI inherently. Again, we love it, right? There's so many different ways to kind of visualize data. But with Jet, what you're receiving is power behind the Power BI day one, which is the cube. So over here on the right, instead of this being blank, you actually have a finance cube. So you can just click boxes and create a report. So if I create a new dashboard here in Power BI, and again, you're looking at actually pre-built dashboards from Jet, because it actually has been very popular with our customers, is that they want to actually use Power BI to visualize the data, but they want to use Jet as the actual data set, so where their information is coming from. So when I click Get Data on this blank kind of place, I'm going to go to the database. I'm going to click on my cube. And so as you can see right now, there's nothing over here. But when I go into the cube, it's going to look very similar to what we've been doing this whole time. So I grab the cube, and again, we're presented with measures, which in this case are little calculators, and then dimensions, which look like a calendar. And so really it's up to you on how you want to view this. So I'll just click a pie chart. We'll take like sales and maybe, again, kind of the salesperson. So you can see that. Really a lot of folks use Power BI for these maps, and I don't blame them. They're pretty cool. So maybe we'll grab cost by a location. Let's grab like one of the cities. So you can see it's like zooming into that for me, which is pretty nice. But again, I think you're kind of getting the gist of it, right? It's just a matter of kind of clicking and pointing to, where is my information? How do I want it to appear? And so it's, again, most of the time, pretty intuitive. You don't have to be, any kind of technical expert to create these dashboards, right? So with that being said, I'm just going to do kind of a very quick kind of the future of Jet, really kind of where we're going and where we've been. So again, we're a Microsoft partner. We have been since 2010. What they saw really was lots and lots of very, very happy customers. And they asked for us to create some solutions for them that we delivered on. And so when we delivered on those, we realized, this relationship is real. And at their request, we've basically been elected to be the de facto reporting solution for their Dynamics platforms. And so from that point on, we started plumbing for the cloud in 2011. So in terms of what environment are you in, if you're in a VM, if you're in the cloud, if you're thinking about kind of those future forward thinking technologies, just know we were plumbing for this since 2011. We're already getting ready for the Internet of Things. So we're ready. We have a very, very strong development team at Jet, and you also have a very strong partner in Boyer. So just know there's a lot of technical expertise surrounding you to make you successful in any of those environments. Partnership with NAV was 2010. 2016 was Dynamics GP. Web portal, we've kind of already talked about that a little bit, where people were asking for it and we delivered. This fall is a huge release, probably the biggest release that Jet Reports has ever had, according to the owner. So I'm going to say it's probably true. We actually have a budgeting solution coming out that's going to live within the web portal. It's going to be very similar to what you've seen. Flexibility of Excel remains, but simplicity and workflow is going to be applied. So instead of having to manually share these Excel files or manually manage that process, we're going to give you both the flexibility of budgeting in Excel if you want to do some advanced budgeting, but you can load those templates in, you can seed for the coming years. So there's a lot of research that has been done around this, and we're very, very excited to bring that to you this fall and most likely in October. So with that, I'm going to turn it back kind of over to the Boyer team and Paul. But again, thank you everybody for being here, and hopefully you were able to get a lot out of this today.
Yes, that was great. That was a good overview of Jet Reports. So now I put up on the screen there, and I want to thank everybody for coming, but also if you want more of a personalized demo to kind of really kind of dig into some of those specific details and questions that you want to get answered and maybe show it to more people at your organization, feel free to contact me. We can set something up. We can kind of go into more detail for that. So again, well, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming, and thank you, Micah, for that great demonstration. And you should be getting a email within 24 hours to kind of link back if you want to share this webinar with other people in the organization. All right, thanks again.